What's up guys, this is Pablo Munoz here. I'm very excited to bring you one of my first ever video tutorials, at least like a proper tutorial when I'm talking. And I have two aims with this tutorial. The first one is to see if you guys like it, if you find it informative, if you understand my thick accent and all that. And the second one is basically, more than a tutorial, is a reference guide. Just to show you how I built the multi-eye tool, and just give you the basics of it so you can guys tweak it and create as many eyes as you want for your creatures and characters concepts. Alright, so I have ZBrush already opened up here. I'm gonna go to the tool palette and load the tool, multi-eye ready. Yeah, that should be the name for you guys. It's the only one that comes with a file, so you won't miss it. I have Zolo mode at the moment. I'm gonna turn it off just to show you how it looks. This is the whole eye, but I'm going to turn it back on, Zolo mode, just because I want to show you each subtool individually. So that's all it is. It's just a ZBrush tool that is made out of three subtools: the eye, the eye shine or cornea or reflectivity of the eye, and the third one that is the pupil. Alright, so I'm just going to go over each one of them and what they do and how you can tweak them to change the, the shape and the color of the eye. All I did was creating layers and sculpt details and paint details over each individual layer. So when you combine them, you can create a whole bunch of different styles. So like I said, this is not worth a tutorial because the technique is so simple that you guys will pick it up straight away. Alright, so with this the eye is selected, you go down to the layer subpalette, holding down shift to be able to open up the subpalette without closing the previous one. And then you'll see a whole bunch of different layers that I added here. The first one have to do with the eye size. So if you turn it down, you can get a more realistic looking eye. Let's just leave it at 0.5. By the way, I'm gonna mention before I go ahead and talk to you about the other layers, I just want to mention that the iris size should match the shine size. So if you click on it, you'll see that there is a reflection size that should be 0.5 as well, as per the what am I doing? There you go. So 0.5, that should match the size of the iris. That's so you can get the reflection working in the right spot. Okay. So the next layer will be the real details, and the next one, real details too. These two layers, they work well if you combine them a little bit. They just add sculpted details to the model. Just try to not to go all the way up, because then it will just be too much. So maybe something like that, if you're going for a realistic style. The next layer would be cartoon styles or cartoon details. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see the it's not very complex. It's just add an extra level of details, and if you're going for a cartoonish style, this would be probably better than the real details from the previous two layers. The next layers are two colored layers. I used two textures that I tweaked a little bit for each one of these one. So the real blue will give you a realistic looking blue eye, and the red brown, the real brown is not really brown, it's like light blue, yellowish color. But when you combine the two, it will give you more variation and quite interesting effect. This is great to these two are great to combine them with the real details, but I'm just gonna move it along and keep showing you the rest. After that, you have red, green, and blue, basically RGB values. So the red one is just a red color, green one, and blue. You might have noticed that the details in each one of these colors is slightly different. So you can see here, let me just get rid of the symmetry. You have these squeaky lines here in the blue that you won't see in the green one, for example. In the green one, you rather have like a ring of brightness around here, and in the red one is also different. The reason I did that was because once you combine them, you get even more variations with the colors. So with RGB, you can get different hues. Just combining them all. Let's go for a brownish color, something like that. And the great thing is, because you can still use the other layers, you can add a little bit of realism, but adding a bit of the real blue or real brown details. There you go. All right, so I'm just gonna keep this as brown, and actually I'm gonna add some details, some sculptor details. Turn it down a bit. And to show you the last 4 layers, they're very, very, very easy to tweak as well. One is just lots of veins, so you get heaps of veins, pretty straightforward, and fewer veins. Obviously you can combine them both and get more. I'm gonna go for a more realistic approach here, so I'm just gonna have fewer veins and slightly tweak this layer a bit up. Something like that should be fine. Reddish, pretty straightforward as well, and yellowish. This one will work better if you're working on, I don't know, zombie or a creature. But even if for a realistic one, I like to turn this up just a tiny bit, and the reddish. All right, let's say that we're happy with that. Okay, let's go back to the ZTool palette, and I'm gonna select the first. I'm gonna toggle Zolo mode. Right, so this is what you should see if you're following along. I'm gonna turn off the visibility of this, of the reflection of the eye, and I'm gonna select the pupil. Right, so the pupil has only 2 layers, very, very basic ones. One is the position of it, so you can bring it forward. The idea with this is that, so the pupil is changing position. Let me just show you the transparency. It's just a plane, you won't see it very clearly. Something like that. As you can see, this layer, all it does is bring the pupil back and forward, right? And that will create the effect of changing the size of the pupil. But then you see that, let's put it around, that's too much. Something like that, right? But obviously you see this circle, this plane is huge, and it's just like intersecting with the actual eye. So that's why the next layer is just the pupil size. And you will get rid of all these jagged edges around the pupil. So let's just bring that down. There you go. Okay, so that's all you need to know about the pupil, really. It's just one controls the position of the plane, and the second one controls the size of the plane, so you can tweak it to position it whatever you want. All right, and that's pretty much it. If you turn back this on and you hit render, just a quick render, you shouldn't be seeing anything different from what you're seeing in the canvas. Yeah, and that is because I just initialized ZBrush, just so the settings that I'm working on is pretty similar to what you should have. The way that you activate the transparency in this subtool, sorry, the subtool has already the transparency activated. All you need to do is go to the render palette, go to the render properties, and turn on transparent. So if I render again, quick BPR, that's it. Okay, so that gives you the transparency. If you want to tweak the transparency of this tool a little bit, you can go to the render palette. I'm just going to dock the render palette into the left panel and go to the transparency in BPR. And you can play with this N factor a bit. There you go, it's just a little bit clearer. This is pretty much what I wanted to show you guys. There's like a lot of extra things that I can that we'll be able to do with this subtool, like adding the reflectivity so it reflects the environment and things like that. But this should give you a quick introduction on how to use these. Like I said, it's very, very simple, and a good starting point to create your own eyes. Is by no means perfect. So things like, let's see here, you see 3 different reflections. You shouldn't be seeing that, and that is because I'm working only with layers to deform this, to deform the actual geometry of the model. So I try to do my best to keep it rounded, to keep to follow the shape of the eye. But since layers work in a linear way, it's a bit hard. So again, this is just a good starting point to create your eyes. And depending on your project, you might want to tweak it further, but again, it's really, really simple to do. You can still sculpt on top of it, add new layers if you want to, change the size, change the little details that each one of these subtool has. And just before I forget, I'm gonna just mention a couple of extra things. These eyes, these models, they have polygroups, so you can easily Ctrl-Shift-click any of these polygroups to further tweak any of them. You can see, and obviously this one has UV map ready. So let's say that you're happy with this, you can simply go to the texture map and create texture from the polypaint. So that's a good idea if you wanna, I don't know, take these to a render engine or somewhere outside ZBrush. Just before I go, I'm gonna show you quickly how to tweak this eye that you can see here into more of a cartoonish style, very, very easily. All right, let's turn this reflection or eye shine off. Go back to layers, shift click in the sub palette, and yeah, I'm just gonna change it quickly to be more cartoonish, just to show you guys how quick this is. Yellowish a little bit. All right, so that should do it. You can see the pupil is almost floating. That's because I changed the size of the iris here, so I just need to go back to the pupil and change the position, or maybe let's change the size because it's actually cartoon, so it should be a bit bigger. There you go, and that's your cartoon eye. All right, guys, this is it. I hope you enjoy it. I mean, there's nothing really new that you might be learning from this. This is just, like I said, a simple guide to show you how to use it. But if you like it, just let me know. Appreciate the likes, and hopefully I'll have more time to do more tutorials in the future. So thanks a lot. See ya.